Hey, I'm Brett.
Hey, I'm Molly. Welcome to our podcast.
Let's be curious together. On today's podcast, we have one of our best friends, Brent Okuley, with us. We have been through a lot of ups and downs in life, thick and thin, together. I don't even know where we're going to start today. There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
But he's been someone that we've really loved and enjoyed doing life alongside, and we're just going to kind of get into it today. And this is something, I mean, honestly, we're always in these types of conversations.
Yeah.
That the podcast is like, we are always having these deep conversations and doing what the essence of this show is, which is like, let's just ask those deep questions. Even if we don't have the answers, right? Let's be curious about it together. So this is kind of just an extension of our normal conversation.
I would say Brent is actually one person besides us that we have really gotten into a lot of fantastic, edifying conversations with that we haven't done with other people, at least on the regular. Like, we'll have like spin-offs, one-offs or whatever with family, random visits here and there, but we have these regular get-togethers with you that are fantastic, and I feel like we just dump everything out. Like, everything comes out.
Yeah.
All of the thoughts, all the whims, all the emotions and offenses.
The debriefs.
The debriefs. We
Yes.
call them debriefs. Yeah. Whenever anything big happens in your life or our life, we want to get together and debrief, and it's been extremely meaningful over the years to have you. Brett's known Brent for a lot longer than I've known Brent, and it was just God that put us together because we're all three very different, I feel. So we strike a little bit of a balance with each other in like this awesome like trio friendship. I've never had one of your friends be as close of a brother friend to me as you have been. And I feel like you're not just Brett's friend, you're my friend too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes the girls and I will pop by his house with a surprise coffee or pastry or something like that. He has an incredible, beautiful house that we'll talk about later. But do you want to talk about when you met him, how you know him? Like, from way back?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think our first interaction, I'm visiting the church where you were working, because my cousin worked there, so he's giving me a tour, and you were doing front of house, and he's just like, oh, hey, this is Brent. And I was like, oh, this guy looks cool. I mean, he looks like he knows what he's doing. My first impression, it sounds hilarious, I'm like, you had your front of house talkback mic like in your pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Wired, as you're walking back and forth through the booth, like there's a wired mic sitting in your pocket. I'm like, what? This is so different. But I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing clearly, so I gotta take notes.
Yeah.
And
I remember that. That's funny.
Why did you have that mic in your pocket?
Well, it's the talkback mic, so front of house audio engineering, live audio engineering. The talkback mic lets us talk from our position where we're mixing to the band up on stage into their monitors.
Okay.
So you use it all the time. So for whatever reason, I guess, based on what you just said, I was just probably using it so frequently. Just have it right here. I would just pull it out like a holster, pull it out and talk into it, put it back again. It had a switch, so they're not like hearing my pocket noise,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you walk around in that particular sound booth?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just walking. Well, back then it was a huge front of house console. I mean, it was probably like 4 feet wide or something, which you don't really see many that big anymore. So I would be walking from one end down to the other end, adjusting faders and stuff. Yeah.
Cool. And so you've known him since then. What is it, like a workshop or something that you met him at?
No, I don't. I think it was like just a Sunday service or a Saturday. I think it was a Saturday service, and I was just popping in to see, what my cousin's up to, what he's doing and stuff. So he was giving me the tour around because he was tech director. Yeah. So he was just kind of giving me hey, here's all the stuff I'm up to, and we happened to bump into each other, and then I don't remember when it was. A few months later, probably, I was like, somehow through conversation, found out Brent tunes systems and works, that way. And so, I'm tech director at the time at our church, and I'm like, we need to get this thing wrangled and under control. Hey, Brent,
we need help.
I'm throwing up the white flag here and asking, so I'm like, hey, would you be able to come out? And I think that was really the first time we got some like crossover, lots of
actual
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I mean, I'm sure like when we were introduced at that time, I was, I'm meeting people all the time, so it's just like a different face. So that would have been really our first time connecting, like as you and I, and making memory, right?
Yes.
Right.
So
And you were busy that Sunday. I remembered actually specifically what was eating all of your time and attention. The moment that I came up was them working on the Friends intro. They wanted to play.
Oh my gosh.
The band wanted to play the Friends intro. Yeah. So I'm sure they spent good 10 minutes rehearsing the worship set, and then they spent an hour rehearsing the Friends intro.
Right.
I was like,
yeah,
let's do it again. I was like, oh,
learning
man.
a minute and a half part.
I felt so bad for you, being a front of house guy myself. I was like, oh man, it's just the same over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah. I'm used to that part. Yeah.
How long? So had that been the first church that you were sound engineer at, or tech director, sound engineer?
Yeah.
Okay, the first church ever, because you did other work before that. Can you tell us about that?
Mm-hmm. So, I grew up going to church ever since I was a little kid. Yeah. So I was, of course, very familiar with church. That was a part of my upbringing. But I did audio engineering and tour management in the music industry professionally for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so I was attending this other church that Brett's talking about. I was attending that one Sunday, and they had opened up this huge auditorium with tour level, A-level touring production equipment. Not necessarily the same production caliber, but they had the
equipment.
They had the tools for it.
Did the equipment draw you in?
Yeah. And so,
shiny pearl.
So I decided to go up and introduce myself, because I was just a stranger to everybody that worked there. Mm-hmm. I would just be in and out. And I decided to go up and introduce myself and offer to volunteer from time to time whenever I was home in between a tour. Mm-hmm. And
because you were full-time touring.
Yeah, I was touring full-time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, hey, well, when I'm home, sometimes I'll help out, because every time I went, it was the same guy up there mixing in front of house. So I knew that was the only guy they had. And obviously I knew.
So you've been watching
with my
for a while.
Oh yeah, because I'm always looking back.
You would scope it
that's
out.
My world. So I have a critical ear to every single nuance that's happening, good or bad.
Yes.
And so when I see the same guy back there every time, I'm like, well, I'll go help him out.
Yeah. And it's hard when it's your thing and you're sitting there in the service to be able to tune that out and enjoy the moment.
You can't.
You just can't.
It's like, you know, the rusty nail on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
You should know. You can't either.
I know I can't. I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah.
When I see the video world going on fire, I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, I close my eyes.
Even if I'm worshiping, in a church service during the worship time, I still am hearing every single thing musically that's happening, because I've tuned my hearing to do that by it's second nature, so I cannot turn it off.
Right.
Even if I'm okay, I'm just gonna block it out. It's impossible. You can't block it out.
Yeah. I mean, you spent 20 years.
Oh, the snare's not loud enough, or oh, the vocals are too harsh, or oh, this is too much, or I'm picking apart constantly.
Right.
Or it might be oh my gosh, it sounds great. This is awesome. Okay.
Right.
I'm learning that every sound engineer, like every other artist, you are a true artist because you're mixing something live. Same with you, in the work that you've done. So there's not only preference, but there's caliber and there's technical.
Yeah.
So you're working against both of those things. So it actually just says a lot and means a lot that you were wanting to volunteer to your services, basically, for the church that you were attending.
It's it was a multifaceted thing. I knew obviously that I had the capability to really bring something at a very high caliber beyond what they had in Bradenton, Florida. It's not New York or LA. So me, I've toured all over the world working with these huge artists. And I'm like, okay, I can tip my hat, to this local community here and really bless them. That's one part of it.
Name drop for a second on some of the tour level artists.
But the other part of it was that I also knew too, just because I toured with a handful over the years of Christian artists, but mainly it was all just regular mainstream artists that I was touring with. And so I knew what I had experienced and what that world and that environment was like. And so I also knew for my own sake, it would be healthy for me to get engaged in a church as well. To kind of okay, let me do something that actually has a purpose to it instead of just a paycheck, mixing, just for these artists. That's at the end of the day, it's just to get paid, right? I'm well, if I do it for the church, because that's my belief, and who God is and who the Bible says he is, then I'm actually doing something for an eternal purpose, you know, like an actual bigger picture. Even, you know, if it's Bradenton, Florida compared to like Sydney, Australia, like the significance is very different. Even if like the skill might be here and the other people were here, the trade-off is like, well, this is just for performance and this is just for a show and this is to try to save somebody's life, you know?
Yeah. No, that says a lot. And just curious, why hadn't you plugged into a church in this way with your skill set before? Just curious.
Well, a couple reasons. One, because I was touring full-time. So I had a full-time job.
Which meant you're living on the road, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
So I was,
For those who don't know what that means.
yeah,
No
so all over the world, like, so to name drop, so I toured with Fall Out Boy, for example, and I was their front of house engineer and production manager but for that year that I worked with them in 2013, it was after their long hiatus, they came out with their Save Rock and Roll album, and I was home 2 months that entire year if you added up all the time together.
Not even consecutively.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even remotely.
Cumulatively.
Yeah. So like maybe a weekend here, maybe a week here, you know, and just add it all up. It was 2 months that whole year. Plus I had just gotten married the year before. It was crazy. So touring didn't leave a lot of time to do anything else. Now I did have like, they toured like, they had a brutal schedule and that's why they got burned out before. And then they came back and they would just do the same thing again. And I'm seeing it doesn't matter. That's a whole other story. But normally when I would tour, I'd tour for 1 to 3 months at a time. And then I'd be home for 2 to 3 months at a time sometimes.
Okay.
And, you know, the pay on the road, you're being paid for skill and then for the huge sacrifice to unplug from your personal life and your family life, etc. So the pay is incredible. So you just put that in the bank and then you come home and you can afford to not work for a couple of months, no problem. And the money's still there, you know? So I didn't ever have any need or definitely not any desire. Like when I came home, I just wanted to relax and just do whatever I feel like. But I knew like in that time, I was like, oh, well, here and there, like a weekend here or there, I wouldn't mind doing something for good, you know, volunteering at a church. But the other reason,
how your mama raised you.
Yeah. Yeah. I had definitely never, so we hadn't said this. So that church at the time, when I offered to volunteer that same Sunday, and then like that following week, they were like aggressively coming after me, trying to hire me.
Okay.
Because their main guys had actually just resigned, the guy that I saw and then one other guy. And they're like, oh my gosh, look what God has done for us. He's brought this professional, you know.
The timing was uncanny, I'm sure.
But like, I had never thought about that. I never thought about working at a church. You know, I had a professional career, and to leave that and then go work at the church, while it would allow me to be home and have a home life. I mean, you're talking like a fraction of the pay. Yeah. From like a weekly pay, like what I'd make a week on tour is like they would pay me a month. You know, it's like massive cut. But
that was appealing to you because of your lifestyle time then, right?
Yeah. At the time I was, you know, thinking about doing anything for over 20 years, like you're over it, you know. I was so burned out. I hated touring at that time. I just wanted to just walk away from it. I hated it.
Wow.
Yeah. Like there would be like that small window, because I mean, anyone that doesn't tour they don't obviously understand what it's like until you go and you do it. If all you've ever watched is a TV show of Grey's Anatomy, you think that's what it's like to work at a hospital. It's not, you know, so everyone thinks that touring is just this big party where you just listen to music.
What were the pain points? What were the pain points of touring?
Well, like I said, first and foremost, like any kind of like friends or family you have, you completely are away from. Like think of like, now obviously you're not like in combat, but like someone that deploys, like they're gone, you know, like, so it's the same kind of concept. Like you go on tour for like 3 months, so you're gone. Like life is moving on without you while you're out there working, and your days are super long. You're talking a minimum 12, sometimes 18 hours a day of work. And like, it's not just nonstop, but your day starts and then has these different things that happen throughout the course of the day. So you can never like wander away. Maybe you have an hour or two to yourself here or there, but that's pretty much it. But you're just there to work. Unless you have a day off, and then a day off is pretty basic. You're going to the movies, or like some guys are playing golf, or like every once in a while you got to do something really cool and unique because you're in a specific place, like you're in Paris, you go to the Louvre or something. But that's like so seldom, like those moments, and you have to like force those in. It's pretty much you're just working all day long.
Do you feel like time is passing you by when you're on tour because you're just so in the zone? I'm sure.
It feels like life back home is just, and you're just out here, you're completely disconnected. I mean, you might as well be on the moon. You know, that's what it feels like.
Wow.
Like you just give it all up.
Yeah.
You know?
And phone calls don't really suffice at that point.
No.
Like, and that was probably before FaceTime was really a thing.
Towards the end of my full-time touring, FaceTime had like we used to Skype, and then FaceTime came along, and that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like that would carry you a lot longer than like a phone call or anything else would, but still, it's just not the same. And eventually, like, you're just gone. It's like you're out of sight, out of mind. You have tunnel vision, and you're just focused on the job at hand, and you're completely checked out from, if you do have a relationship, like, you have to really force yourself to, like, have some sort of engagement here or there. And then when you have free time, they don't have free time, and vice versa.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different schedules.
So at what point in your touring career did you get married?
2012 was when I got married, and then...
So you were, like, out of the 20 years, what year was it?
Well, Fall Out Boy is 2013. I toured full-time until 2015.
Okay.
2015 was when...
You started, but when did you start touring? What was... so it was like, what, 2007, 8?
2004, I moved to Nashville, and I went to school for audio engineering. And then I started working at a music venue there. And then while I was working at the music venue, I became like the house engineer. So I was like the main guy that would mix all the bands that came through that didn't have an engineer. And then when the bands that were touring came through, like I was the house guy to facilitate, like, okay, like here's, like, we'll take your inputs, you connect here, here's our processor, like here's how you tap into the PA, whatever, you know. So I would accommodate them that way. And I was doing that, and then I got my first offer to go on tour.
So basically what I'm getting at is you were married for 3 years while you were still in this type of lifestyle.
And I had met her while I was touring. I was touring with Under Oath out of Tampa, and she was friends with the bass player of the band. And so all we ever knew when we started dating was touring. So it was familiar. She was still in college at the time. And I remember asking, like, once we got married, I'm like, well, do you should I just quit now? She's like, no, like this is what you know.
I just want to say that's a lot to deal with for the first 3 years of your marriage. Like that is a hefty type of lifestyle to like almost overcome, I think, as newlyweds. Yeah. You know, because you don't see each other often, and the first few years of marriage is hard enough. And I can't imagine what that was like.
I remember like just when we first started dating, I spent 6 months on the road, half of it in country, half out of country. And back and forth every 2 weeks. So it was 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out, 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out. Yeah. And even that, I felt like was so brutal. Yeah. And to try and like maintain our relationship.
Yeah. Try and like grow a relationship.
Right. Trying to grow this dating relationship while I'm 2 weeks in country, 2 weeks out. Yeah. 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out. I was like,
it's the worst way to do it.
I hate it.
Let's say that.
I can't imagine what that would have been.
The worst.
Tour would have been even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were married for about 3 years, and then you decided that you wanted something different.
Well, I didn't decide that per se. Like I was, we had been married, and then she obviously knew how I felt it when I was with Fall Out Boy. Like it was tough because I got along great with the band, especially Pete, the bassist. Like he and I had a great relationship. We'd worked together prior in another project that he had, which is what led me to working with Fall Out Boy. I got along great with the tour manager, great relationship there. But it was the crew. So they had their old crew from like back in the day, and these guys were like very cliquey. And so I was the odd man out. And so like they would always, like I was like basically like I was Rudolph, And so that sucked. And I was always upset. And then finally, like one time there was like, it wasn't an altercation, but like finally I'd had enough. And like the drum tech had said something to me, and we were like in Belgium, I think at the time, at this festival. And I walked up backstage and I confronted him on it, and he blew up, and everyone thought it was this huge fight. And like I had not done anything, but he just exploded because he couldn't handle being, challenged basically. And then it ended up where like management came, and there was all this drama, and like, what's going on? Like, hey, the band loves Brent, like you guys need to figure it out. And then he's like, well, if he stays, I'm quitting. And they're like, oh, he was the drum tech, and the drummer, Andy, loved him. And he's like, no, it's like, you can't do that. If he goes, then Brent goes, or whatever. And it's like, Like, oh my gosh, it was this whole thing. We ended up, I think we were in London when this was going down. I was like in the hotel room with like Bob, the manager. He's actually, he was like the main dude at Crush Management, and the tour manager Josh, and we're in the room, and I talked to them first. They were totally cool, and then AJ came in, the drum tech, and he told his story like after I'd already shared everything, and they're just like, well, that's not what Brent said. Brent said da da da. He's like, yeah, but still, you don't, and like, oh, okay, so you did lie.
Oops.
And they tried to get everyone to work it out, and that was when he made that like weird ultimatum. He's like, either fire him or I'm gonna quit, and it was so weird.
Yeah.
So then they just fired us both.
Oh.
Yeah.
Both you guys?
But I was so burned out, I wanted to leave anyways. I was like,
yeah.
I mean, like I was like, I had to tell my wife at the time. I was like, so I'm coming home early, or after this show, I'm not going back on tour again. With Fall Out Boy. It was a bummer. The tour manager, Josh, like he actually, when he had to come and tell me, he was crying, because he's like, he was a great guy, and I was a production manager. We worked together well. And then of course, like later on, like I ended up like meeting up with these guys on the road at different times. They're like, hey, what's up? Like the same guys that like I had to deal with all this crap with. And the drum tech's like, hey, yeah, sorry all about all that. It's like,
it sounds
so
like just
dumb.
a heated moment.
It was just, I was over it, and we were touring like like insane like schedules, and it was just too much. So I was relieved to come home.
So you were relieved.
I just kept on going on tour though. Like
okay.
I went from Fall Out Boy to other artists.
Okay, yeah.
And at the time I was actually with I was signed up to go out with Dancing with the Stars. The time that that church had come after me and offered me a job, and it was cool. They're like, hey, like we are so serious about our offer to you that we will hire you now if you commit to us and pay you now, starting now, while you're still on tour, like while you go and fulfill this last tour.
That was what the church said. Yeah.
Okay. So like I'd be gone for 3 months, and like so I was double dipping for those 3 months. So I'm like, oh, that's a sweet deal.
Not bad.
And I remember I had to sign a contract to work there, which I'd never signed contracts, and I'm just like, and I remember like literally saying,
little too much
in the meeting, I was like, hey, me signing this contract does not mean I'm going to die in the steps of this church. They're like, no, we know, just everyone has to do it. Even if we get you for a month or a year, whatever it is, we're going to be better because of it. I'm like, all right.
Did you read your whole contract?
Yeah, I read it, but it just it just felt
like a noose a little
way
bit.
too corporate, Because on tour, like all these artists I'd work with, it'd be like a handshake, basically an email or a phone call, and you just send some stuff back and forth. Everyone's happy, cool,
That's really
and that's it.
Interesting.
And it's always honor.
And and the honor thing, these guys were loyal.
The email is as like heavy as it would get. Like, so we'd have a conversation, cool, and me, like, just to be proactive, I'd follow up like, hey, looking forward to this. I know we discussed blah 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 blah, so that record exists, but that was like as serious as it got. Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool.
That's crazy.
So, I know that you have expressed your artistry in a lot of different ways. We talk a lot, like Brent and I have seen you change a lot in the you've changed a lot in the past. What is it? 5 years? How long have we known you? 4 years? 5 years.
5,
Yeah, just about 5 years. So I met you when I was pregnant with our third daughter, Danina, and we were teaching a parenting class at church, and that's when I really started to get to know you, because you were coming to the parenting class.
Yeah.
But
because I have a son.
Yes.
Who's awesome.
Son.
Yeah.
And your son is the same age as Milena, our second daughter.
Yes.
But they're 2 weeks apart. We found out, which is really cool. So you started coming to the our church, and I remember you walked through the doors, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" And Brett was
because it's a small church, so you notice everybody.
It's a smaller church. Yeah, we're always scoping out if there's somebody new, different face who stick out. So I remember Brett making a coffee appointment with you or something like that. And I'm like, oh wow, he actually wants to get together. Because you love to get together, you love to chat with people and get to know people better, but it was kind of a rare thing that you would reach out to someone and they would seek to have a coffee appointment with you.
Follow through with it?
It was like reciprocation.
Yeah.
And I remember
Not everyone
reciprocates.
Everyone who comes in, or I should say it this way, I think we found that a lot of people in life are so busy in their lives that
just to make it to church.
Just to make it to church is like
is a miracle.
Is it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let alone like the community aspect outside of it.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I don't have time.
Yes. Thank you for explaining that.
And so to see someone who was like, oh, I have time to do more.
And I desire to do more. I desire to like build with someone, or like at least build a relationship. I know you guys had a past crossover before.
Were you there that first Sunday that I came?
Yes.
Because you were not. Because I texted you. Because when I came in,
no, I remember.
I don't think I met you that first Sunday. Yeah.
No.
So were you playing?
I don't remember that.
I was probably in the other country, campus.
So I attended the service, and I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I know somebody here. So I thought I would see you.
Yeah.
And we hadn't ever talked, like,
that was fall.
Aside from that time that I'd been there to come tune the PA.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, that was our only interaction, really.
Right.
And then so when I was coming that Sunday,
I think I was in Hawaii.
just out of the blue, really.
Or California.
I attended. It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. But then I was like, oh, so I sent you a text like, hey, dude, like, I'm actually attending your church.
And I remember
don't think you're here.
Yeah.
And I remember when you sent the text.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was in Cali or Hawaii. I don't know where I was. And I was like at this event, and I'm like, what?
The one time
and
you're
then
not
you
there?
texted me.
Yeah, I'm like the 2 times of the year that I'm out on like this tour thing, and it just happens to be the same weekend. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and I vaguely, you described Brent to me, and I vaguely remembered.
Bald.
And Global guy. Hawaiian shirt, probably.
Right, probably.
No, but there's that, and then you came a few more times or whatever, and then you went to the parenting class. So I feel like I got to know you a lot better in the parenting class, and from there, I don't know when you started coming over to our house for like get-togethers, but it wasn't too long after that.
No, so I texted Brett, and then Brett was like, oh man, bummer, like I'm not there. He's like, what are you doing like this week? Like Wednesday, let's go get coffee or whatever. I was like, oh, awesome. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so like that's what started. And this was back during COVID, so it's crazy time. And Brett and I, we
must have been 19.
both done video stuff, and like through conversation in the coffee place or whatever.
Yeah.
It was, I think
it was 19.
Maybe the end of 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. We ended up like doing a job together. He's like, hey, come with me. He's like, we have the same camera. We both had like Lumix GH5s. And so he's like, yeah, come do some stuff with me. That was great because with what was going on, like it was just a good time, and we got to know each other more because of that, obviously, because the first job that we did together was like 3 hours away.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just drove in that car for 3 hours.
Talked the whole time, and then did the job and drove and talked back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You guys just have so much in common, so much crossover, so many common interests. I imagine that was really easy for you guys to connect on that drive, and that was a huge like beginning, I think. Yeah. For that. Yeah. We would actually remember when we would play Cards Christians Like. And we started playing that game, and we like the reason why I think one of the ways that we connected was that we all agreed that it should be the most controversial answers. Right? Yeah. That you could possibly offer.
That's how you win.
That's how you win. Yeah. And I think that was like a fun way that we really just enjoyed you, because nobody else would play the game that way.
Yeah, we didn't feel safe with other people.
Yeah. And nobody was willing to like push it to that extreme.
Yeah, for me, I mean, that is hands down like one of the greatest things that we have is our conversations, is the depth and like, I guess, the breadth, BREADTH,
right,
of the conversation. Like the scope of it. That like, it really there's nothing that's like out of bounds or like, oh no, we don't talk about that in this house.
Exactly.
It's like, so we just talk about it, whatever comes up. Yes. We can talk about it as in depth as we feel like, and that's just something that you do not have, regularly. And that's kind of
even
what you're talking about.
Uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah, the uncomfortable stuff. Like the more uncomfortable, the better. Like at the end of the day, it's like that's the stuff that you remember, and that's the stuff that you value, and that's what sets in your mind. That's what sets you apart. Like when you think about you think about your friends, like, oh yeah. And you realize when you get to experience that with people, when you get to have those really deep and safe conversations, where you can talk about whatever you feel like, you can question whatever you want to question, get to the other side of it, just work through it all, and like see like what's everybody's take on this. That's what really separates like the caliber of friendship apart from the rest. Because there's you have all these other friends where it's like, yeah, you can call them up and maybe they'll be available for something, or they can help out or something. Always good for a high five, and like laugh at some jokes and stuff. But like when you like want to really go deep, like beneath the surface, like that's a big difference, and that's what we have. And that was one of the most appealing things I remember early on between the three of us. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, because you just don't find that, and that is definitely, I feel like, what has allowed us to create a foundation for the type of friendship that we have.
Yeah. I think when we started hanging out and stuff, I think our friendship was also born out of the willingness to not confront, but live in the uncomfortable in a sense that you were going through a divorce at the time. And Brent and I didn't know what to do all the time or say all the time to you. But we would just spend time. We would spend time with you. We didn't necessarily have answers for you. We didn't necessarily, we didn't try to like glaze over anything with you. Like, I just remember wanting you to feel safe with us. Yeah. I remember wanting to provide friendship for you in that way. And you were so easy with it though, because even in your huge transition of life that you were going through, you were willing to show up at our door. Do you know what I mean? Like, you came too. So I think it was just a really unique thing. We were all looking for friendship. We were all coming from different places, but we were all looking for friendship.
Yeah, and you guys did a great job when I was going through that, like, initially, even though, like you say, oftentimes we didn't know what to say or how to, navigate through that. Like, what you did know how to do, and like, it's not like I knew anything either, but like what you did really well is that you showed up for me. It's like, I used to live in the other house, before where I'm at now. My old house was much closer to where you guys are now in the old church. Yeah. And so you would just show up unannounced all the time, which, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that.
I know.
So it's a lot for people.
There was a moment we had pulled up one time, and like no text ahead of time, no announcement. We're sitting outside at the curb, and it was one of their first times, and I was like, we're literally having this conversation in the car. I'm like, honey, maybe we should at least give him a text, like,
because
heads up.
Whose idea was it?
Who knows? I mean, like, he could still be in his boxers, you know what I mean? Like,
True.
you don't know, like,
yeah, hey, come on in.
And I'm like, I'll send you to the front door. Moment. You can go first.
And she's just like, go knock. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because that's kind of honestly one of my love language things is like showing up unannounced. And I know that
spontaneous.
Not everybody drives with that, so that's fine. But I wanted, like, you being in the place that you were at. I just had this sense that I didn't want you to be alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the truth is you were like living life just independently you were doing just fine. But I wanted to, like, after church, sometimes you would just pop into my head and we would just come over, and then on a Saturday we would be out doing family stuff and we would bring you donuts and we kind of just invited ourselves into your life that way.
Yeah. And obviously there's like a whole huge conversation that we can get into about like what I was going through back then in that point in my life when I met you guys, about the divorce itself and like, the start of that to where I am now, 5 years later. But the truth is, though, and in that time, I felt completely alone. Aside from when I had my son with me, I felt completely alone. And, we had just, there at some point shortly after, it was not right away, but shortly after COVID kicked off, and that just exacerbated it. That made it like 10 times worse. Yeah. Because now people are actively attempting to isolate, that's just like, oh my gosh. But prior to but just take that off the table. And in that moment, I remember like I was desperate for community, because when you go through a divorce, it feels like you expect, like when you're going through something that's traumatic in your brain, you're just like, oh, instinctively people are just going to rally around, like your friends, your family, they'll be there for you. And then so when they're not, you're just like, oh my gosh, like now you feel like you're just kind of like adrift out in the ocean. And then so you're desperate for community. And when I did not have that at that other church that I was a part of, I wasn't a staff member anymore, but I would contract with them at that time, but I didn't feel that there. And so that was what prompted me to come try another church, because I'd met this homeless guy outside in the front of my neighborhood. I was talking to him and he talked about your church at the time. And I was like, like I've been thinking about that going there one Sunday, because I drive by it all the time, and I'm like, well, I just met you, this perfect stranger, and you talked about it. I'm like, I guess I'll go tomorrow, He's like, I'll see you there. I never saw a guy again. He was definitely not there. But so I went, and then right away the church was super welcoming, like what you expect. And like I said earlier, I grew up in the church, so I know like how church should feel, like what we anticipate a church experience to be like. And I felt that immediately there. I felt like the message and the speaking was amazing. And then when I connected with you guys, the way that you acted, I'm like, that's what it's supposed to be like. That's what the church is supposed to do. You're like, oh, there's this, okay, one that's a new person, so like, let's engage with them, and like, let's see, like, if they're going to stay around, if they're going to be a part of our church, we want to make sure they know they're welcome, right? And so that's always like this, like, instinctive thing that if you're actually like invested in your church and somebody comes through that you feel like, oh, like, hey, we look like we're the same age or whatever. I know what it's like to go to a new place and not know anybody. Let me just, make the first step here and go introduce myself, make them feel welcome. And then maybe like, I'll go get lunch sometime, whatever, that's how I was raised.
Right.
And so when I was not feeling that at all, like in my old church that I was a part of, and then when I came to the Source,
you can say the name. It's okay.
I don't know if we're trying to be...
You're not saying specifics,
if we're trying to be general here, but then when I came to your church, which is now my church,
the church with no name,
I experienced that, and then you guys you did that perfectly, exactly.
Aww.
And beyond that, it wasn't just like, oh, like, just really hospitable and just kind and just good people kind of thing. It was like, oh, like we're very, like we have all of these things that like we're in sync with. We think about the world and life in a very similar way, even though we all have our own perspectives and our own way of describing the same thing, many times. But so that was a bonus, like I was welcomed, you took me in basically, and you showed up for me, and like you were available for me when I felt alone. And then you showed love, community, and the bonus was that there was something different there beyond just regular friends, beyond just like a social circle. There was real depth there, like where we could actually have intellectual, at-length conversations, and then play crazy games and make them as controversial as possible.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because we played that game with another person, a pastor from the church, and her family, and it was like so PG and like just like
they're
not
safe,
just so safe. And I'm like,
they're like, can I just discard these cards and not play them? Type,
they're just a little too much.
You're like, I wish you wouldn't.
I'm like, give it to me.
I understand if you're uncomfortable.
I remember that season though. I mean, like you said, I think there was some really cool overlap in our lives. All of us came from different types of, but all artistry backgrounds, right? So we all came from different levels of artistry.
Yeah.
So I think there was some of that we had in common with each other, right?
Yeah.
Which was cool, even though the expression was different, right?
Yeah.
Like my expression, your expression, her expression, all of it was a different form of artistry. It wasn't like this exact, same, but I think a similar enough language of understanding artistry and production, that we were like, hey, this is kind of like cool common ground.
It's an artist's mindset.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then, obviously we were tiptoeing into some of like these deeper things and throwing them out there. And then you weren't shying away, and you just like, you'd meet it and go, or double down, and I was
definitely like, double down.
I was like, okay, all right, we can. I'm like, I think that went all right, Brent's totally hanging with us. Like, this is cool because, again, like past experiences, not everyone wants to go there. And like I said earlier, there's so many people that don't leave the margin in their room. Or in their life, margin in their life to take on more, to do community, to be intentional, to have time together, right? We fill up the social calendar with events for kids and, extracurricular this and that and whatever, or extra hours for work. We just fill out that calendar, and all of a sudden, before you know it, there's no time to do the things that, in my opinion, really matter, which is building relationship with other people. And that was something that, I was like, this is so cool that someone else is willing to take the time to do this type of thing too, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's been like a common trend for us just in general in, you know, like a conversation ongoing for, you know, 5 years now is like, how can we maintain lifestyles that leave room for us to sit down and keep community like this in these types of conversations. And I know you've had that very central to even what you're doing now with the Palmetto Estate, right? And like how you formed your life around this idea of like having control of your time, right?
Yeah, totally.
So talk to me a little bit more about like what having control of your time and schedule means to you, because you went from like crazy where you had no control.
Yeah.
You had to be where you need to be when someone told you to be there, you know, 18 hours a day. So now what does it look like for you?
Yeah. I think that we usually learn what we like from doing what we don't like, you know? So you can kind of cross everything off a list. No. Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that. So, you know, we learn from our mistakes, we learn the hard way, etc. So from going from an extreme schedule, like I was talking about earlier when we would be on tour and it's just go nonstop. And then you come home and then like nothing, and then full on again, you know, and then nothing. Like, so it's all or nothing, which is honestly kind of how I've always lived my life and my personality. But I did realize that I hate being busy. I hate busyness. I hate the rat race. I hate comparison. I hate everyone being in lockstep with like what everyone else is doing. You know, it's like I want to like break free.
What an artist.
I want to like, you know, I want to just unplug from whatever the herd mentality is. I just want to unplug from it and feel like I'm my own person, you know, just kind of like making my own path. And so I would rather have, if it's one or the other, like less life and more money, like less personal life and more money in the bank, or less money in the bank and more discretionary time and personal life to do whatever I feel like, I'm going to choose the second, because time is money. And no one knows how long they're going to live, and life is short. Even if you live to be 100, it goes by like that, you know? So I want to be present in the moment. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to not do something if I don't want to do it, and only say yes to the things that I'm excited about and that I'm passionate about, and just push everything else off the table, you know? With my son, who's 7, like when I have him, I want to be totally present with him and just engage with him. And then when he's with his mom and it's just me, then I just want to engage my brain, whatever I feel like. And if I feel like just sitting on the couch and just reading a book, or just drinking coffee and doing nothing else, or just playing guitar, that's what I'll do. If I feel like doing 10 projects in one day, that's what I'll do, you know, like, but I love not being told what to do. You know, for 20 years, I just had to do whatever I was told. I knew what was expected of me, even though like I had freedom, like as like someone that had, you know, gone through like all these different stages of production, you know, from starting here and ending up here and working on this high level. There was all these expectations of me, but and I could just show up and do my thing and like, you know, really be focused on that. But I was still, you know, working for the people. I had to do whatever I was told, and I had to go wherever we were going. Like I didn't have any say in that. We're just, we're going to here, to here, to here, to here. And I'll be back sometime this year, you know. I love not having to do that anymore, you know, and I love not working Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. I would rather work 1 day a week and do whatever I feel like the rest of the week, and that's pretty much where I've gotten now.
But I feel like there's a lot of people that would say they want that, right? Yes. You know,
but they couldn't do it. They wouldn't like it.
But that's where I think there's also a level of people don't understand the things you had to say no to in order to say yes to being able to live this type of lifestyle. Yeah. Right? Like, you know, you can't have all of the materialistic things, right? And you can't be pursuing keeping up with the Joneses generally and work the 1 day a week.
Yeah. Like I've been on both sides of this where I feel like, you know, I've like had all the things and been able to do whatever was desired financially, etc. And like there's a trade-off, like I said, like, so the majority of people, at least in America, work 5 days a week minimum. They have 2 days off a week, and so they work 52 weeks a year, and maybe they get 2 weeks off out of the whole year. And for me, like, to work, to give a year to some random employer or to some random job just to have 2 weeks to myself is a horrible deal. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. Like, when you're starting out, like, did I work regular jobs? Yeah. I also worked more jobs than anyone I know. Like, every single weird, different career field, it seems like I would like go into, because I would do it, get bored, do something else. But the music industry was the longest that I ever did any one thing. Anyways, like, why, like maybe like you have like the fancy car in the driveway and this nice boat or this house on the water or whatever, but you only get to enjoy it on 2 days out of the week, like, and you have to put in 50, 60, 70 hours a week to be able to afford all these beautiful material possessions that you're paying for, and that, like, to look at, like, oh, that was 3 years of my life right there, that boat that's out there.
And 80% of the time it collected dust, and
it's already depreciated substantially. I took a huge hit on that as soon as I launched it in the water the first time. It's like that I feel like that was okay in the 80s, but I don't feel like that's the way to do it anymore in 2025.
Right.
Now it's about maximizing your time. So like who are you as a person? What matters to you the most? What things bring you to your highest level of contentment, and just like your highest level of operating, of thinking, of just being who you truly are. And so, like, get rid of all this other busyness, nonsense stuff, and say no to everything you possibly can, so you're only saying yes to what you want to say yes to. And I mean, it's a crazy thing. It's not, people are like, well, how can you do that? You have to pay your bills. Like, well, yeah, but like, I didn't do this overnight. And I'm in a crazy place now where I work officially a day and a half a week, where I contract, and then my property I use for weddings and events. And
the Palmetto Estate.
The Palmetto Estate is a 1929 Spanish Revival estate in Palmetto, Florida. It's beautiful, and it has century-old oak trees and a brick courtyard from the 1800s, and massive concrete walls, and architecture that's it's asymmetrical and one of a kind, and beautiful landscaping. It's very appealing.
Anyone looking for like the boutique wedding venue that a Rolls Royce would look appropriate in?
A 1953 Rolls Royce.
This is the place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's absolutely stunning. Everybody that sees it is shocked that it exists.
Yes.
Anyways, so the whole point of this is that, I, after touring like a crazy person for over 20 years of my life, and I'm 44 now, I'm in a position where could I be as busy as anyone else? Yeah, of course. I could, okay, well, I have all this free time, so I'm going to do this job, and I'm going to pick all this, I'm going to maximize my income.
And can I just interject and say, you're not, like, you have plenty of talent to offer any position. You have plenty of experience to offer many positions. You're not lacking anything in being able to make.
You could get more work.
Yeah,
a ton of money, doing a lot more work, spending a lot more of your time working, but you've chosen a different route.
I've found a way to pay my bills and to live and to feel like I'm retired, at 44.
Yes,
which is amazing, and I love it. It's crazy, and I don't think that I really. If it wasn't for COVID, I probably never would have figured it out.
That was my next question, is what brought you to this place? Because did you know that you wanted this when you were 25?
No. Well, when I was 25, I wanted to tour. And I did. And I loved it. And as I got older, then that changed. But it wasn't until COVID, when like everything shut down that was in my normal scope of work, that I had to like get really creative. Ended up selling my boat, I had to pinch pennies, and like I had good savings, lived off my savings. A lot of people that were in my circumstances kind of went through similar things. And then like as the economy started to come back, I got, more freelance work popping up here and there, but I didn't have anything that was consistent aside from when when it was like at the most bleak time, and I did marine construction, which was brutal work, but cool, enjoyed being on the water. I guess I could say that. that aside, like I was able to figure out that stuff always came in, just like I wouldn't make phone calls, emails, anything. Like, it just God would always provide. Like, oh, he just always brings it. He knows what my needs are. He knows what I have to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure, I use my credit card a few times here and there, like for like some tighter times, but like by and large, like everything was always provided for. Like everything would always come in. And I would always have enough. And like for example, like just crazy things would happen. Like just recently, like last week, I got a check for $1,500 from my mortgage company. Like, oh, there was a surplus in your escrow account, so here's the difference. Okay, great. And like, oh, well, the property taxes that we projected for the year were off, so we're lowering your monthly mortgage payment by $400 a month. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, stuff like that happens, And I mean, also, I've found a way to live like within my means where, I always act like I don't have any money at all.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So that allows me to have money.
You've worn the same clothes since I met you.
Yeah, I had the shirt. I had a different shirt on before this, and Brent let me borrow his because mine was too tight. But that shirt that I had on, which is my favorite shirt, is 20 years old. I've had it since 2004 in Nashville, and it's a Western shirt that looks like I just bought it. I mean, it's in incredible shape.
But you've done something that a lot of people aren't comfortable doing, which is all the materialistic stuff, right? I'm just comfortable with what I have, basically.
Yeah,
right.
I try to be content.
I don't need to be I need to have all that stuff. I can be content with what I just have right now. The thing that you say is, I'm not seeking the materialistic to find joy. I'm seeking the time and experiences.
Yeah.
And that's been something that's been really cool. We've discovered through our years of relationship is like, by getting my time back and then being able to have experiences, which is so many you can do for free, you know what I mean? Like that's where I'm going to find joy in life, and I don't need to go and buy things to start feeling better. I don't need to own more and more stuff. And not that you don't have nice things too, like you do, but you're not like overwhelming splurging, and consumer mentality.
If I buy a new pair of shoes, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I'm like, I got two new pairs of Vans. Just buy one, get one free. It was from the outlet.
You got a new car though.
I did.
Or new to you.
Yeah, I traded in my old Range Rover that was a 2009. It's like, oh, you got a Range Rover. It was a 2009 with like 130,000 miles. So I traded that thing in, bought a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's lifted. It's got big tires on it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like my parents were actually visiting and I was talking to them about another repair, because if you buy a Range Rover, you're just going to be repairing out the
half the time in the shop.
Yeah, like up to your nose and like repair bills. I've joked. I'm like, their symbol should be like the check engine light, like the logo. Range Rover, check your engine. But anyways, yeah. So my parents were in town visiting, and I was telling my mom about this upcoming repair. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be another $1,200. She's like, no. She's like, you're not gonna put more money into that thing. She's like, you've put in as much money into that as you bought it for. I'm like, yeah. She's like, you need to buy something newer. I'm like, She's like, Brent, like, I just don't think this way. She's like, let's break down all of your repair bills for this Range Rover, like how much you can afford a month, I'm like, she's like, you could have a great vehicle. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I started thinking, I'm like, man, the idea of not having to worry about every new sound and squeak that I hear out of my vehicle, like, oh, is it working today or does it have to go to the shop again? Like, like, wow, what a crazy concept that would be. And so like within like 24 hours I'd gone and I found the vehicle that I bought, and I remember just driving it off the lot, and like I had a warranty on it. I'm like, I can't believe it. Like anything happens, it doesn't matter. Just go get it fixed for free. I'm like, what a concept. But like that's just the way that I live. Like I think I'm not like, oh well, I'll just go buy a new car. I'm just like, nope. I have a car. I bought it for cash. I'm just that's it. Drive it till the wheels fall off. My mom's like, you don't have to live that way. She's like, I know you're very frugal.
There's a balance. Yeah. There's a balance.
So I appreciated that she spoke that freedom into me. I was like, yeah, you're right. So I went down and bought the newer vehicle. It's 2020, but it looks like, it's brand new shape. It's amazing. I love it.
It's a cool car.
But yeah, like I generally do not spend money unless I have to.
Yeah.
Like I spend money on my bills, groceries, basically, feeding my son, and landscaping stuff in the property.
So can I talk about the landscape on the property? That was my next topic.
Which comes from every booking that I get. I just, I take...
That's your business.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but let me talk about creativity, because you are one of the most creative people I know.
Thank you.
And it's a short list. You're on the list too.
Oh, thank you.
I'm on the list too.
But now, what's the...
We'll talk about that later. What's the tier
Depends
system?
on the day, the project.
So you being an artist and you being a creative type, I've really seen you express your artistry in a lot of different ways. And I've seen you give yourself permission to try new things. And I've seen you like push your own boundaries in songwriting and like you basically picked up photography and videography because you just wanted to do it and you did it and you made great money off of it, whatever, side job, whatever. But for the landscaping, I've noticed, just some principles play out in the way that you approach your landscaping because your Palmetto Estate is a wedding venue and a large event space. So within that, you bought the place. And it needed some repair in the landscaping, so you tackled it head on. It was overgrown. It was scary. Yeah. It was scary. There was one corner of the property that you turned from like overgrown vines and everything into this beautiful like wedding ceremony. What do you call it? Arbor type situation, piling situation. I'm not describing it, doing it justice.
I mean, obviously, I know you're talking about. Anyone listening is like, I don't know.
I don't know. But you transformed it and you cleaned everything up. But you also have been, I know you're interested in landscaping. You've always you did landscaping in high school or something like that as a small side job. Yeah. But the design factor of how you've brought in even free plants that people have gotten rid of.
I dig them up.
You dig them up.
Yeah.
You talk somebody into digging them up for you for $10 or something like that. And you bring them in. And the way that you have designed your landscaping on your property has been incredibly frugal and incredibly, like you just have a vision for what things could look like after they're grown into. And
a little obsessive.
You have,
we're a little obsessive.
We don't need to talk about that side. It's fine. No, but I think it's just beautiful to me to see your artistry play out in your plants because it's not about the here and now necessarily. It's about what could be as well. And you spent a lot of time on your property.
Yeah.
A lot. You put so much time into it.
There are many times where we have frequented your home, like say twice in a week, or whatever. And I don't think there's been a single secondary visit I've had where there hasn't been something that you have done to the property between visits, every time I come back.
Before you talk on it, I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
People talk about how it's good for every individual to have like their home that they feel safe in.
Yeah.
And to have like a secondary and maybe a third place that they could go if they needed to, like a place that feels like home, a place that's welcoming for them. A lot of, I think, people have parents with homes, that they can go to if they ever need to go somewhere other than their home. So your house, the Palmetto Estate, is my third place.
Okay.
And not everybody understands that, but if you saw it, you would. The plants just are incredible. Like it's just so nurturing and so healing for me to be around. So I'll come to your house and I'll walk the property, and of course you tell me everything that you've done that's different.
Yeah.
But it's also just being there. There's such a sense of peace there. There is such a harmony. And it sounds very like hippie, but there's such harmony in the nature and what you've created, but also I think what it was really designed to be. So I would love to hear just what you want to say about that.
There's so many different angles to
I know. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's 3 years I've lived there now. I found the place totally it feels like on paper like a fluke. So obviously, God blessed me with it, right?
Yeah. Because you got a pretty good deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, especially now, like 3 years later.
Yeah.
Like now it's insane. Like if I wasn't planning to live there, I could sell it for a fortune compared to what I bought it for because of everything I've put into it to bring it to the state that it's at now, compared to how it was when I found it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys remember like when I was looking back and when I was in my old house, I'm like, I'm thinking about, checking out the market because the equity is crazy right now, like with real estate. But I had actually had breakfast with you guys. I was like, I'm just going to stay. Like, I'm not going to find anything better than where I'm at. It's just going to be a lateral movement, blah, 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 blah. And like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm just staying in that house. And Will's like, I love that old house. And so I remember I left here after having breakfast. you know, we're always at each other's houses all the time. But like, so I left here, went back home, and I got an email from my ex-wife, because she also has a real estate license, so I'd always use her for real estate transactions because I trust her. And I got an email, and I was like, I saw that it was from her real estate account. And it's just automated. It's like, oh, based on your search history or criteria or whatever, or new homes, like whatever. And I was walking, I was taking my dog out to go to the bathroom outside, and I was like halfway on my phone, like swiping over with my thumb to delete the email. I hadn't even opened it. I was like, wow, I already made up my mind. I'm like, oh, it's some stupid generated email, you know, what does it know? And halfway, I was like, I should open it before I delete it. I opened it up. And then it's that house. It's the Palmetto Estate, which is what I named it. But it's my house that I purchased. And I remember seeing the picture, the very first picture, which is from the courtyard looking up. It's a great angle. The photographer did a great job.
The one good thing.
Yeah. I mean,
the only presentable angle of that home in the state it was in.
I would like to know who did the photography, because they know how to shoot the property. Like, that's what I love. Like, when I do real estate photography, I love when I go and I have a real challenge in front of me. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna show the seller, or like the owner of this house, what it could look like. You know, here's the way you should see this house, you know, if you actually cared about it. And so I shoot like really great shots and just make it look amazing. If it's a dark room, make it super bright, you know, just light and bright and everything, and just make it a small space look huge, etc. Anyways, back to the photo that I saw of this house. I opened it up and I was like, oh my gosh, it was in a brick courtyard looking up. You have this crazy looking balcony, Spanish tile roof, all white stucco, a large balcony stairway going up to it, huge landscape and all around. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this place. It's insane. The price was extremely reasonable given how the market was at the time. Because I knew what I could sell my house for, which I did. I knew what I could sell my house for and what this thing was listed for. I'm like, what's the catch? You know, I started swiping through. I see the photos. And again, they took amazing photos. And I was like, they made it look like it was all the way at the end of this road, like completely isolated by itself. They did not show like who the neighbors were. And like, so it had that. And then I was going through and I was seeing all these really unique like pictures of the inside of the house. And then I had this like 1920s looking swimming pool outside. I'm like, it's got a pool. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I could literally sell my house and almost buy that thing for cash, you know? It's like, this is insane. So I messaged my ex-wife. I was like, I want to go see this house today and put an offer in on it. Because at that time, like the market was so hot. Like if you found a house, like it would have multiple offers. I mean, yes. Several
within the day.
Yeah, instantly. It was just gone. You saw a house, it's gone. So within like 2 hours, we were there. And she was there first. I pulled in. She's like, it's scary. She's like, they took really good photos. And I had my son with me, our son. And she's like, I got the door unlocked. She's like, I'm going to keep Willa here with me. Don't take him inside.
It was bad.
She's like,
it was that bad.
She's like, it's really bad in there. She's like, I didn't even walk through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'm here. I'm like, I've just got to walk through it anyways. I'm already like underneath, you know, like the presentation that she's given me. I was like, okay. And I'm like, whatever. She's told me some stuff. I'm like, yeah. So I walk in. It was super sketchy inside. So bad. I mean, there was clothes everywhere. There was underwear. There was drug paraphernalia. It was super dark. There was like no natural light coming in.
Yeah.
I was using the flashlight on my phone, and I'm stepping over, and I literally had like hair standing up like on my arms, feeling like there was like some like bath salt, like deranged person that was going to rush out at me at any moment, you know. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, hello, there's not supposed to be anybody here. It feels like there's somebody watching me, you know.
Yeah.
Went through the whole house.
You had me over that same day, I think, to look at it, or the next day.
Shortly after.
Yeah.
I remember walking, like, it's still in that state when we walked through it. I was like,
yeah.
And I was like, ooh, there's some cool stuff here.
Yeah,
I was
so
like,
it's got some bones, but man.
Yeah. So I went outside and I was talking to my ex, and I told her name's. She's like, no, this house. Like,
no way.
she's like, Will can't stay here.
Aww.
And I'm like, no, I understand like what you're saying about all this. I'm like, yeah, but if you just look right here, I'm like, just this is amazing, you know. And I'm standing like pretty much in the same spot that photographer probably shot from. And I'm like, if somebody would just take this house and turn it upside down, shake it really hard and sterilize it, you know, it'd be great. And she's like, yeah. And I was kind of selling her on the things that I liked about it, about the wall, how it feels like a compound. She's like, why would you want a compound? Like, when? I'm like,
every man's dream.
I'm like, Steph,
so the wall
you're
meaning
surprised
the fence.
that I want a compound.
The fence surrounding the property.
It has an 8-foot high concrete wall, 18 inches thick. You know, it's awesome.
Every man's like, if I could have that, you know, what do you call it? Razor wire, a Doberman, and security. I'm like,
that's right.
Come on.
I know, exactly. I'm like, have dogs patrolling the land.
These giant front gates on the house. Like, you feel like you've made it at that point. So
she initially was like very like no, anti-cold to it, and like, yeah, great house back in its time, because it was built in 1929, so it's almost 100 years old. And she's like, well. She's like, I did after she left, she's like, okay, I drove out the other way, because there's 2 ways you can come in. There's one way where you come by the Lazy Oaks RV Park, which is nothing to see. And there's another way you go through that goes past like a nicer community, right? It goes past the
waterfront.
Yeah, like there was a nice ball diamond, like park. Blackstone Park is over there. It's a much nicer way to come in. She's like, well, if you go out that way, it's a totally different experience. She's like, so we had a friend who's a detective at the sheriff's department. She's like, call him and have him like run the house and like see what he says about the crime. So I had him do that. He's like, oh yeah, it's all good. It's like, there's no problems there. The closest problem we have is like a few miles away, like just some kids, you know, in vacation rentals. I'm like, oh.
The previous owner just had been like that kind of person.
What happened is
rentals.
It was a kid that inherited it from his parents. He was 24 years old, and his parents had both died. And so he got it from them. He couldn't make the payments on it. He was ultra depressed from losing his parents. His sister had basically disowned him. So he was living downstairs and renting the upstairs to this old crotchety dude that was a real character. And they had a shed in the backyard that he was renting to some crazy lady as well. And the pool looked like a swamp. Like, it was not the pool from the photos. I mean, it was the pool, but like, from wherever they took the photos to now, I don't know what happened. It turned into the Everglades.
And I know you might get to this, but like the whole property was so overgrown. That it was so overgrown that we didn't even know that there were statues.
Is this still recording?
Hanging out in the property. Like,
we had no idea.
That as you were uncovering, found
we found, I mean,
so much stuff.
That first year
it was that overgrown.
That I was there,
it was so
I found
thick.
so many things on the property that were completely overgrown. Like, you found that amazing fountain that I brought back to life.
Right.
Cannonball.
I found it. Civil War cannonball.
Statues. Like,
the multiple statues. Who knows how old they are. But yeah, it's always something else. But yeah, so I bought the house, and I had all these contractors come through. It was this whirlwind of activity over there. And I know that everybody that had driven up and down that road for years was like, what is going on at this property? I mean, every day there was like 20 trucks there, and like all these guys in and out. Roof, electrical, plumbing, AC, landscaping. It's just like, because I had so much equity in the sale of my last house, so I bought this one and put a ton of money down on it, and then still threw a ton of money into renovations. And so like I did all that, so I was able to make the house, obviously, one, livable, and then second, so I could have a very low mortgage payment. I'm like, I don't want to have to struggle each month to like I'm going to throw a ton of cash down, so I don't have to care. Like, no matter what job I'm doing, I'll always be able to make my mortgage payment, you know. Now it's gone down $400 a month, which is insane. But yeah, so in the 3 years I've lived there, I have treated it. So even though I say like on paper, like I work like a day and a half a week, like officially, when I'm not working like for someone else, like doing something, I'm always working on my property. And even if I literally never did another project, which in my brain, there are unlimited projects to do there for a lifetime. But even if I never did another project, just maintaining it, like the property itself, the pool, the house, like, that's a full-time job.
Only you could have tackled that.
Yeah, and even you know, yeah, a big part of that was from my tour management like experience. Like when I was running the cruise, basically, I didn't hire a general contractor. I had all these other crews there. And so I was acting like the GC, like they're all coming to me and I'm paying and I'm approving and everything else. And I loved it and it felt amazing until like, I'm like, oh, I'm all out of all the money. And I remember like walking outside.
This is easier when you're spending someone else's money.
Oh man, have I gone too far? I'm like, have I bit off more than I could chew? Is this a bad idea? I'm like, I don't know, it's fine. I go back inside and pay the guy, you know. I'm just like, all right, that's all the projects we're going to be doing, guys. But like, I mean, I I had really stretched my money on that thing. I put a lot of money into it, but I stretched that money.
Oh yeah.
And I got so much done for it,
Oh, I mean, and obviously the landscaping you did yourself, if you had hired out, would have cost you a fortune.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I mean, anything I can do myself, I do myself, and that's a multifaceted thing as well. Like one, it saves money, and I can do it. It's good for me physically, as long as I'm careful with my back. But also, like, just as a man, it's great to engage in a project, like to look at something, have a problem, come up with a solution. And then with landscaping, it's so cool because you get to have like everything all at once. Like in the same day, I can start this, I can tackle this, and then I can have the sense of reward from the completion of it. That same day, it's like, look what I did. Cool. Now I've earned this steak that I'm going to go cook tonight. I'm going to go enjoy my house.
Yeah.
I think
Call Brent and
creatives.
Molly and see what they're doing.
Yeah. See if they'll feed me steak. I think
Which we did have tonight.
Yeah, we had steak tonight. Steak means love.
Mm-hmm.
So I think creatives need to have the ability to pour back into their own lives.
Yeah.
Like, I think we can spend so much time pouring into other people and other people's businesses with all the talents we hold, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's really important for us to see the work of our hands poured into our own homes and our own lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this too. So, I mean, you went through a major life transformation.
Yep.
Right. Like a reset in a way, in a lot of ways, right? Did having this project to work on and be out there in the garden, and and did you find that was beneficial and helpful? And if so, how?
Of course. The answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
It was therapeutic.
The long answer is I'll say. So, I went through this divorce. It's been 5 years, maybe 6 years. I don't know. It was 2019. February of 2019 is when I believe. Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy. That's gone by like that. Like it's been
Really?
a freaking blur. Yeah.
Wow.
6 years. That's insane. But like Will 7. Yeah. So 6 years. He was 1. So the divorce that I went through, I personally felt like it was unexpected. Of course, I can see like things like in hindsight where I can see like how things, got to where they got to, right?
Right.
But it wasn't something that I'm like, oh, I think I might get divorced. Like, I think a divorce might be on the horizon for me. I wasn't thinking that way. I was just living life, taking life one day at a time. So when the divorce came, when my ex-wife Stephanie told me that she wanted to separate and then divorce, it was a shocking thing for me. And then we had been married for 7 years, at 7.5 years at the time. We were engaged for a year, dated for a year prior to that, knew each other for a year before that. And so we had a good marriage. Obviously, if it was great, we would still be married. We had a good marriage. We definitely both tried and worked at it. And it was easier earlier on, and maybe some of that was because I was gone a lot, so maybe it kicked the can further down the road and bought us more time. I don't know. If it was going to fail eventually, then maybe that's what, did. But and I like it's a two-way street, and it's never one-sided. There's never just, a saint and a devil together. It's like, no, like you're both making decisions that are good and bad at all times in every marriage, and for us, like that was happening, and but we were continuing on. But she had decided that she didn't want to be a part of our marriage anymore. And we have a great relationship. She is the mother of our son, and she's a great mom. And we communicate often about him, and very, in a lot of ways, still exactly the same as we used to when we were married. Like it just because we've kept that rapport between the two of us,
which is very rare.
It is very rare. It was a decision, and it took a lot of work in the front end. So I don't want to gloss over rather the what I walked through. So obviously, like she was in a place where she felt compelled to make this decision, and she did. And I had no control over the decision she was making. All I could control was how I responded to the situation in my own life, and early on, like as when you go through a divorce, for one, like if you haven't been through one before, you have no idea how to handle it or what to do. You're very much immediately a fish out of water. You have lived as a couple for years and years, and all of your decisions, all of your activities, your entire lifestyle is based around two people doing everything together and, sharing the load and helping each other and, just walking side by side. So when that is suddenly no longer part of your identity, which, like I said, a fish out of water is a great way of putting it, because now you suddenly are frantically like flopping around like, I don't know what to do, because I've only existed like this for this many years now. And the way that I existed as prior to that is such a foreign idea to me. Like, I don't even know where to begin. Right. So every single day, like it's survival. Of course, the circumstances for me, like initially was a separation, and there was conversation as if it's like, oh, work on yourself, we'll take some time apart and then we'll see. But that was just a very soft transition. Her mind was made up when she had said that. It did, it gave me some hope. I'm okay, cool, work on myself, figure things out, whatever. And then like there was a point where I realized, okay, this is actually happening. I think like it was obvious. One day she came over and we had signed all these plans and stuff. Things progressed. It's kind of blurry now, but I know that eventually there was a time when it was like, okay, this is very much 100% happening, And then of course after that, the letter comes in the mail, that like it's been filed with the court, all this stuff. But we did work together on everything. It was very, very,
amicable.
Yes, amicable. Yeah, like we were adults about it, and we realized. I knew like, okay, as a human being, like your flesh, your gut response when something is wrong, if you get burned by something, you want to be angry at that thing that burned you. Like if a candle falls on me, I want to throw it across the room, right? But I realized that by having a reaction to something that was happening, regardless of how I acted, that would only hurt me and our son. And so you learn that you can control what you can control, and the only thing that we have control over is how we respond to the situation, to any situation in life. We only have control over ourselves. No one else can make us happy or make us angry. That's our choice. All the time, no matter what they do. We are an adult, and we do have control of our responses and our emotions and our thoughts. So yeah, what can I control? Control me. So initially it was very, very hard internally, but I always externally respected the previous relationship that we had together, respected her as a human being and as the mother of our son. And I knew that the healthier that we would interact with each other, the healthier that Will, our son, would develop, right? Yeah. And so, okay, like we're not in the same house anymore. We've got different families. She has since remarried and has a little daughter who's very sweet. So Will has a little sister who he loves. And so I knew that the healthier that our houses were in regards to each other would always just benefit Will. And then also, of course, if I was a selfish human being, like many people are tempted to do that and they feel justified in doing so, then that could limit me and my interaction with Will, and like there could be legal consequences. None of that is worth it, And so we've heard the saying before that being bitter towards someone is like you drinking poison hoping they die. So like there's no benefit in that, right? So the faster that I could mentally shift my mind, and this was a very long process. It makes it sound like it's that. But the faster that I could shift my mind from thinking like that I was angry and I didn't like the situation, into this is reality and I'm going to make it the very best that it can be. And I'm going to respect her as I've always respected her when she was my wife. I was able to respect her then. I should still be able to respect her now. And I say that not that she gave me reason to disrespect her, but just because when you're dealing with emotions, you want to just feed into those, right?
Pain can make us do and say a lot of things. Making
the choice to rise above just some sort of like physical reaction and saying, hey, what's the smartest thing to do here? Yeah. Well, the smartest thing is for us to continue to be healthy with each other and get along. And so that we can now, like we do in this day and age, in present day, like, oh, like, hey, I've got this engagement. Like, would you want to take Will tonight? Of course. Yeah. Like, can we swap these days? Yeah, no problem, whatever. And, we go to his games together and stuff, and it's all healthy. It's like, in my mind, like, do I ever see her and not remember that we were married at one point? Of course not. I'm always aware of that. I'll always remember. But it doesn't guide me, it doesn't control me. It's simply a thought, and we have a million thoughts a day, and just one of the million that pass through your mind, like, oh yeah, we were married before, cool. And we see eye to eye in a lot of things. Obviously we were married, we respect each other, we both agree, like, hey, we were meant to be together because of our son. He's excellent, and we both love him very much, and we both brag on him all the time. But let me step back. So he asked about the projects at the Palmetto Estate. So this is what Donald Trump calls the weave. It's got a long weave going now.
Classic Brent, by the way. Classic.
You got to bring it back. So for a long time, I was really, when I met you guys, I mean, it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. It was the worst thing I've ever experienced, psychologically, emotionally, physically. Like, I mean, I lost tons of weight. I wasn't eating, like, just you name it. It was the hardest thing. And they say that it's actually going through a divorce, unless like you both just hated each other, I guess, but going through a divorce where you actually loved each other, is harder than the death of a spouse, because you still have to see them, but that thing has died. So it's very, very interesting. So this is love after death, or life after death, basically, because that happened, like that relationship has died, and a new one exists.
You're walking through the grieving process of the old, and
you're
taking the new.
reminded of it forever, the rest of your life. And
so projects.
So the projects, like, were almost like a survival tactic or technique for me for a long time. When I first undertook this house, and the last house I was in before, I remember, like, when I first bought it, I was so just over everything that was happening in life. I mean, like, for a period of time, like when this first happened, my thoughts were suicidal. When you're walking through an identity crisis and you're, like I said, a fish out of water, you're just floundering around, you don't know what to do, and you don't see any kind of viable solution, you just want to turn it off. You just want to, because you can't find any kind of an escape from it, and it's incredibly painful. And so I credit God and my son, for taking me past that part of my life, and of course, really valuable, authentic community, through our friendship, played a massive role. And so being able to walk through that time, and then learning the things as I went through counseling, like, what are different things I can do to overcome this headspace, when you really feel like kind of crushing you, and just trying to turn into this downward spiral. Like, what are the things what measures can you take to compensate and to counteract it, really? And so at the time, I remember it was like, okay, going to the gym, that's a huge thing. Both mentally and physically, there's a whole response that's taking place in doing that. And then for me as an artist, like, creating something. So if it's music, if it's a project, if it's doing like photography or videography, any kind of thing that can engage my mind, that kind of makes me go, I would do that. And then spend time on it. And it just walks me further down that path, away from this, like, oh man, life is so rough, this is really heavy, I'm so depressed.
Like, breaking out of that toxic circle.
Not staying in there. Just stepping out of it, so it's like there's all these, like, different life preservers instead of just drowning in the water. It's like all these different things you can do that, like, keep your head above water so you can breathe and still function. And it's very much a discipline, and then and it's a choice. The projects were a big part of that. So I kind of, like, just before I sold my last house, I started to take pride in it again as a homeowner, after just focusing, like, the pain and the hate that I had internally for this, like, injustice that I'm walking through in my life, onto that property. And, like, then starting to realize, okay, like, let's stand up, let's walk forward, let's move, let's not sit in this. and realizing the benefit and having those different outlets. So I would just find different projects I could do around the house to increase the curb appeal of it, improve it, all these different things. And that would, allow me to go through another day and to make it. And and so it would minimize the time that I was just stuck in this whirlpool. And, so I would have more time outside of that. So I'm able to continue to grow and to become healthier.
Yeah.
And then when I took on this property, it was just, like I said earlier, like there's projects there for a lifetime. And so that was, you actually said this at one point, you said that the property like outside was like my living journal, like, which is very, very accurate.
Yeah.
So I would say there were so many times that I didn't know what to do, but that I knew that there were things that I could do, so I'm like, I have no idea. I don't have any direction. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. My thoughts are here, whatever. I'm aimless, but I know that there's all these things. If I just look out here, there's all these things I can just start tackling.
When you're living journal, meaning like, I don't know about if you're this way, but when I work with my hands, I'm thinking about things and thinking through problems while I'm doing something, and that helps me kind of get through a problem. Is if I'm keeping my hands busy. Yeah. So it's almost, I always saw your plants as like literally like almost like you're sculpting and like you're writing something. You're writing out your thoughts. On your plants.
It's like perspiration processing, it's like you work this out, it's like, okay, cool, you get to the side, you just kind of have this like
and
accomplishment. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, even on a small scale, even when I just cut the grass, like just on the writing board, my brain just like.
And the memories of those thoughts, I don't know if you're this way, but the memories of the thoughts are planted in the location that I visit when I'm thinking them. So if I see that again, I'm remembering exactly what I thought at that time. Are you like that? No? Different?
I know what you're talking about.
I haven't done that, but it would be very powerful to do that. To go back and look at it and be like,
well, do you ever have that with like, do you ever have that with a song? Like a song?
Yeah.
Holds a certain memory.
Sure,
you can remember where you were, what you were thinking.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
100%.
Same idea.
Like a sensory memory thing.
In the middle of like going through something, like
which you have.
It is literally, it is 100% snapshot of that moment. It's like what's the temperature, what's the wind speed, like everything is just captured forever in that song in that moment. It's like, oh wow.
So when you listen to it, it's like taking you right back.
It does. Like, and I have so many audio notes on my phone from like song ideas that are like that, and like when I'm like driving for a long time and I have nothing to listen to, I'll start going through like some of my archives on there, like, oh my gosh. One, I'm like, oh, it's a really good song, I should finish that. and then second, it's like, oh wow, yeah, I remember how I felt. I could feel it again while I'm listening to it.
I've been so impressed at how you've afforded yourself a voice, like no matter what, and you've changed up your artistic expressions.
Artistic.
That too, but I'm just kidding. Your artistic expressions to where you're letting these things come out, and you're, like you said, you're finding those lifelines and those life preserver raft things where you're not just bottling it up. You're not like, you have to deal with it, but I've seen it actually push you into other artistic realms. Maybe, if that's accurate to say, but you have just birthed so many different sides of yourself.
You haven't just like self-medicated and ignored.
No. No. I've seen you grow different parts of yourself as you've been living at the Palmetto Estate and healing from all of that major life transition that you had.
So much healing,
but it's like you're a different person. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do. Yeah. There's actually a video that I recorded of myself one time when I was downtown Bradenton, and I was going out to eat at the rooftop pizza place, whatever it is.
Oh, I don't know. I've been there.
Yeah. Anyways, it's like really great view there. But I remember like in the moment, like I was just like over my life. Oakenstone, yes.
Oh, you call it a pizza place?
That's what it is.
I've never got pizza there.
The stone part. That's the oak and stone.
They have his pizza.
Stone fire pizza.
Yeah.
But like I actually recorded a video of myself like in the moment, like because like back then, like it would, it was just every once in a while, like I would get to this spot where it was just like everything was dark, and I just wanted like everything to be over, and I recorded myself saying exactly what I was thinking, exactly how I felt in the moment, and what I wanted to do. And I remember when I showed it to my counselor, I'm like, oh, he's like, that's really good. And he's like, it's good for you to do that, like it's like almost like I I took it out and like just put it somewhere and like,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Instead
You
of just
released
carrying
it.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But that's still like, that's a very crazy thing for me to go and watch. It's like,
you still have it?
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. It'd be hard for you guys to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just me talking to the phone, but it's like, oh my gosh.
But those are like the depth of who we are. And I think I've just been really impressed. I haven't seen that depth of, dark feelings. And
I mean, you guys definitely saw my ultra depressed state.
okay, but I'm glad you're saying that because I didn't want to have to say it. But I feel like we did see. I remember you coming over multiple times, and you were just carrying major stuff.
I was hanging on by a thread.
And honestly, like, how do you sit down with someone like a close friend at a dinner table? And what do you do when they're literally hanging on by a thread? You don't know what to say. You don't know how to approach it. You don't know if you should talk about it, if they want to talk about it or not. But it's just this supercharged atmosphere of like emotion. And like there were so many times you were going through so many difficult things.
Yeah.
And I was surprised you kept showing up was the thing. I was surprised.
And we were like obviously having conversations of also like how can we show up in the best way for you, right? And there was a couple things, we didn't have the answers, but there was a couple things we knew we didn't want to do, right? One, we didn't want to give like pat answers or like give these like, we call them like the Christianese
Really
reasons.
cliches.
Got you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Let go like God.
Which is true, but no.
the Lord
not now.
gives and he takes away. And, he's
His ways are not our own.
right. He clearly had something better for you, which is why he let this,
Just give it to him.
all that stuff. We were just like, okay, we're not going to go there. That's for sure. We're
That's
not
for
gonna
sure.
go
We
there.
didn't, yeah.
We're not going to say those things because one, we hate them when people say to us.
Yeah,
it never helps
hollow.
anything.
It
It's
doesn't do
hollow.
anything.
There's no substance. But the other thing, we're like, we're going to be friends, and we're going to be available. Like we're going to be available in the sense of saying, if Brent ever wants to talk there to go to that level,
we'll go.
we'll be ready.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be willing. We're not going to get scared or run away from it.
Yeah.
Or we're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you said that, or
In the
I
meantime-
can't handle that. But we're not going to push it either.
In the meantime, I will feed you.
Yeah.
we'll just be friends.
And Molly is
I'll make you
the
the
most
best food I
amazing
can.
cook in Manatee County, in case anybody's wondering. Chef.
Best food I could. I
Yeah.
made you the best food I could.
Yeah. And you never make the same meal twice.
That is the truth.
No recipes, please. No recipes. Yeah. But anyway, it was just a really special thing to watch you go through that. And I just see your story. Where you're at now is just such a different place. And healing is such a beautiful thing, but healing cannot be a rush. Like you've taken the time you've needed to take. And none of us are perfectly
I'll
healed.
be healing as long as I'm alive.
But
We've done a lot too in this time as well.
I like to say, yeah, of course, and that's another podcast. But I would like to say, like, you're in a really great place, and I'm curious if like your dreams have changed. Where are you at right now with how you want to spend the rest of your life? What are some things you want to do?
Wow.
I know you live life day to day.
Yeah, I
But,
definitely take one at a time. Like, this moment is all we have. And what's your 5-year goal? Like, I don't know. Just still be around.
I didn't ask that.
No.
What do you want to do?
I want to take my son to visit the White House with our Secret Service tour that we have, and you guys should come too.
We're coming.
That's definitely on the
It's done.
list
Yes.
of things to do. I was thinking, your picture that's downstairs, the canvas that you just framed,
Venezia.
yes, from Venice, Italy. I was like, whoever makes the first $1 million here, we have to splurge
Here.
and take all of us. We're all going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deal.
So that's
With
a
our
good
kids.
that's a good goal.
Yeah.
With our kids. So
Yeah, of
you make the
course.
$1 million, you have to buy 4 plane tickets in addition to our and lodging and
What do I do with my money, anyways?
4. There's 6 of us,
I'm
honey.
saying in addition to
The 4
us.
kids,
Yeah.
4 kids, 2 adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're agreeing to that?
Plus Will.
Wow.
Will's coming too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. Other goals. Goals? No, not you. Didn't say
No,
goals.
I said what do you want to do and I worded that
What do
very
you wanna do
very
with the rest of your
distinctly
life?
on purpose.
What do I want to do? lose 20 pounds probably. That'd be great.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing too. When I was going
into that
when I was going to the gym nonstop, like through the separation, divorce with the old house, it was like 5 to 7 days a week. It was like amazing. I was in such great shape, and then I moved too far away to go to that gym anymore. I'm waiting for them to open one close to me. So that is another reason why I do so many projects is for the workout. But yeah, we always want to be in better shape, right? So that we live longer, so that we're playful for our kids, etc. I do think I'm like, of course I didn't meet like anybody like real special, like when I was in amazing shape, and now that I'm like in this shape, it's like, hey, I'm Brent,
Please.
But yeah, so that's something I'd like to do. What else? Will wants us to buy a boat again. I always tell him, I was like, it's not the right time. Yeah.
Boat club?
Yeah,
No boat club.
I mean, I know enough friends with boats. Like, we just go out once or twice with them and check it off.
Yeah. Satisfy them.
Yeah.
Great.
Just enjoy the 20% on someone else's boat and stuff.
Yeah. I throw them some money towards the gas, and it's all good. So I don't know. I don't really think necessarily.
You'll be running in the event hosting lane for quite a while with the Palmetto Estate.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been crazy. It's just a very organic, natural thing. Everything in my life, every good thing in my life God has just brought to me. It's just shown up.
I don't think that everybody's supposed to have 5-10 year goals. I don't think. Like, you have such a way of being someone who expresses the here and now, who lives in the here and now, that I think is really valuable. First of all, because Brett and I tend to be a little bit future-minded. Would you say future-minded?
Yeah, almost to the detriment of
almost to the detriment of not being present.
That's a problem, that.
It's a problem, but I don't think that everybody's supposed to be the same. It doesn't.
Of course not.
But what you bring to us is like such a huge gift of living in the moment and enjoying what we have right now, and pointing things out like that are happening.
I'm always trying to chip away at little things on you guys, and I know you're always trying to chip away at me.
Right.
We're
balancing each other. Yeah. You're like, for right now. And we're like, yeah, but what about next week?
Yeah.
I'm like, today is all you have.
You were so happy for me when I quit my job.
So happy. I'm like, Molly's one of the busiest people I know. She needs to quit that dang job.
You're like, finally.
Yeah, seriously.
But I think that you have a perspective that's really unique, in that you are living here and now. But I think God doesn't necessarily want us to be so future-minded. He doesn't want us to be past-minded. He wants us to be present. He's present with us in the here and now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of value there.
So, I mean, let me say this. Like, it's very important to be a good steward, right? Like, I believe in that wholeheartedly. So, with my property, okay, God has given me this place. So, I'm entrusted with maintaining it and making it as beautiful as it can be, increasing the value of what He's placed in my hands, right? So that's something that I see. Like, I understand the value in that. It's biblical, right? What I don't subscribe to, obviously, is sacrificing today for the chance for a better tomorrow. It's like, I don't believe in that. Like, you do what you need to do, you do what you're passionate about, but to lose sight of what we actually have, trying to cling on to something that doesn't even exist, I'm like, it's wrong. And it's probably some kind of consumer agenda that's been weaved into all of our brains, that you just got to escape from.
Right.
Like, we miss our kids grow up so fast, and like, to miss them now, and to like, before we all blink our eyes, they're all going to be graduating high school, and then they're going to be going to college, and then they're going to get married. It's like, where did the time go? And like, that's it. Like, everybody, the person that's on their deathbed is not like, oh man, I'm so glad I put in those extra hours and I was able to buy that boat, or I was able to get that Ferrari, or I was able to, we were able to vacation once in, Tibet or whatever. But like, they wish that they had one more day with their family, with the people that matter most to them. Money is the last thing in your mind when you're dying. All you want is time and to be with your family. And it's like, so why not have that today?
Yes.
Why not enjoy that and put the proper value on that it should have today? Everything else is a distraction. We do what we have to do. We have obligations. Let's meet those obligations, but let's not sacrifice the most valuable things in our lives for the possibility of something more, only to realize like, oh, this is all I ever needed in the first place.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Right. I love that.
And I think you have a much more balanced perspective of live in the present than some do. Like some take live in the present as screw all responsibility, right? Yeah. So like I don't need to think about being responsible for my how my decisions today are going to impact tomorrow, right? Which is a different thing altogether. Where I see you saying, let me have complete ownership of today, right? And so there's the far extremes on both. You know, the ones who are thinking only about tomorrow, and so we'll forget everything, and taking ownership of it today. And then the inverse. I've seen like you've for the most part worked this really good like middle ground in the let's be fully present by taking extreme ownership.
Yeah, that's a good way to say.
Everything that I need to today, right? Everything that's in my hand, everything. And obviously by doing that, that leads to a better tomorrow, right? That leads to a better outcome in the future because you're here and now in the present taking care of and doing your best and, you know, showing up and living life. But it's such a more balanced approach than I think that you know, cliche leads you to believe that most people.
I'm not saying like sell your house and liquidate all your assets and then go splurge everything today because this is it. You know, like
and let me guess.
Right.
Let me guess. You are happy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's all about being content and being content with what you have. Yeah. As soon as you find yourself like, oh, I want to get that or I need this, or it's like, no. We always have so much junk. And I'm sorry, I just looked around your room. Don't read into that. Fair. No, but we collectively, the world, we always have so much junk in our lives and in our homes. Like we don't need more. You know, it's like just have what you need. And I'm not saying to live like a pauper. You know, it's like like whatever the thing is that you enjoy a good dinner, whatever. Have a great dinner. Like buy a cow, like have great meat, like so
wealth looks so different for everybody. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation. But wealth is different for everybody, and I think it's really important to invest in what you value. What is rich to you? What makes you rich? Rich to us is having ownership of our time, so we can like spend more time with our children, not have to send them to school. Rich for me is that I get to cook my family an incredible dinner every night. You know what I mean? Like rich to everybody is so different. So
right,
I love that too.
Yeah, and find out what that is for you, and don't let it be what everyone says it's supposed to be. No. It's like no, it's just it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your money.
We're also wired differently, you know. So
I was watching this author who I appreciate. You know, he's kind of I want to say a motivation business guy, right? And this woman had like questioned him and said like, hey, I'm really trying to succeed. I've been trying to like grow my business. I'm not hitting the numbers. I don't feel like I'm successful, right? I keep trying, I'm not successful. And he's asked like a little bit about her, and she's, you know, got 2 kids. She's kind of like single momming it. She's doing all this stuff. And he said, hey, if I gave you $1 million, would you sell me one of your kids? And she's like, well, no, absolutely. He said, what if I gave you $10 million? Trade you for one of your kids? She's like, no way. He's like, 100 million. She's like, absolutely not. It's my kid. He's like, then you are a very wealthy person.
Right.
The value of your child.
That child is worth more than $100 million to you. So what's success? He's like, is it that you had $100 million in the bank, or that you have a fantastic relationship with that kid and you know it's healthy and you've got all that? He's like, because you're telling me you wouldn't trade the $100 million future for what you have right now with that kid. Yeah. And he's like, so you're one of the wealthiest people in this room. Like, where do you measure success? And I was like, that's so good. Like,
that's right.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we all kind of share in common, right? Is this remeasuring of what success is. Obviously, there needs to be enough to make it through life, right? Like, you hit your, you know, the minimums you need to survive and all that stuff for sure. But it's not this like over pursuit of worldly, right? Where like the time, the relationships, the things money can't buy are way more valuable.
That's right.
In the grand scheme of things. And I think I've really loved that about, you know, something we've had in common, obviously, that kind of is throughout all of our relationship and our conversations is valuing the things that money can't buy.
Yeah, I think a good practice is to like do like a then what kind of scenario. So like go through like all these things that you feel like are important or that you need to pursue, whatever, and ask yourself, okay, I get that, then what? Okay, then what? Then what? And just get to the very end of it and then realize or have the understanding, was all of that worth it? Was that just a futile pursuit? You know, like, is it like, yes, then what? Or is it like, oh, you run out and it's like, that's kind of a dead end, you know? It's just a good exercise to go through those things that cool. if we never force ourselves, like, you know, like it's like, oh, if you aim for nothing, you hit every time. But if you never force yourself to kind of follow through with these thoughts, then they're always kind of shapeless. And so if you do force it, like you process all the way to the end of it, what does it look like? And are you satisfied with all of this that it took to get to that? Is that thing worth all of this? You know, were all of these things value to you or not?
All the things you say no to along the way.
Gosh, I can't believe that. And there may be like, yes, okay, this is the plan for my life. But like,
right.
Obviously I'm saying that because I feel like the majority is going to be
more often than not.
Yeah.
More often than not.
Yeah.
There's more, well, I should say this. There's usually more opportunities presented to us and available to us than are truly beneficial, or like we'd get to the end of that line and go,
distraction.
I'm so glad.
Yes.
So many more distractions.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I realized like, from touring, like, you know, okay, what do they say? Like, the sick man only wants one thing, right, in life. And so I realized, because of my circumstances that I experienced when I was completely away, like on the road all the time, the majority of the year working, it allowed me to have obviously a lot of time to think, but to realize what I valued and what was greater than what I had in the moment, what I was experiencing, what was I missing the most. If I could sacrifice all of this, what would be the one thing that would matter to me above all of this, you know? And that's when I realized, like, it's family. It's like having a family, having children,
and time with them.
Yeah, time with them. Not just like, oh, I've got kids that live in Zimbabwe or somewhere. I don't know. It's like, no, but like, you've got a family, you know, and you have, like, that's it. Like in my brain, I like, from my circumstances that I was in, the environments that I was in, looking at everything, because the career was going great, you know, and I'm having all of these amazing experiences that people could only dream of. And I'm like, none of that matters to me. The thing that would matter to me the most is my son. And so I walked away feeling like having children, being parents, is like the pinnacle of life and success. Like there's nothing that's beyond that. That's it. Like in this life, that's the greatest achievement you can have. That's what I walked away with. And it's so easy to have all these other ideas of what it's supposed to be or what it needs to be. Oh, I'm doing this for our family. I'm doing it. It's like, no, it's like you're missing it. Like that's like you're missing the forest for the trees. It's like you have your kids, you have your children. That's it. I mean, look at Elon Musk. I know people might hate him. He's amazing, but
he loves them kids.
He loves those kids. He's the richest, one of the richest men on earth, and he knows like that's the greatest value is children. You know. Your own offspring. Like there's nothing greater. Like when you can afford to purchase anything, I mean, the guy could buy a country, like if he wanted to. It's like when you can afford to purchase anything and you really do have that perspective, like what's the most valuable thing? He's like, children, my kids, my own offspring, you know? And so many people never get that value, to have that perspective, because they're just trying to make ends meet and they're trying to climb that ladder, you know, and they're just missing their kids.
Paying somebody else to raise their kids.
Yeah. It's like the kids aren't a byproduct, like they are the product, you know?
Yes.
The greatest thing we can invest in.
It's the greatest thing. It's life, you know, and and it's our legacy, and we see ourselves in them, and they'll live on beyond us. And excuse me.
Will is very blessed to have you. Yes.
And we're very blessed to have you as a friend.
Yes. We're glad you're friends. Yes. Well, we could talk for a very, very long time.
We could keep going and going. We do have to wrap.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
So I know we kind of like danced around like the divorce topic, but I wanted to say, because I realized when I went through the divorce that there is just not a lot out there for guys going through divorce. Like if you look for podcasts, like there is a plethora for women, like support, right? There's just not much for guys out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was 3 different books that I read that were absolutely invaluable to me during that time. One of them was this old book that used to belong to my grandmommy, and actually still has her handwritten notes in it. It was at my parents' house. It's by this long deceased author, Larry Okuley. It's called If God Loves Us, Why Do We Have Problems? Incredible book. I cannot recommend that book enough to anybody, but that was a huge help. And basically saying that like our problems are, and the source talks about this all the time, but it's like every good thing comes like from the problem. It's like the problem is like the precursor to this good thing that's going to happen in your life. And it doesn't mean like, oh, like I crashed my car, so that means I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow. But it's like, no, it's like these are all these necessary parts and processes of your life that you have to go through, all these growing stages. Like when you go through this problem, now you're going to evolve to this, you know, and you cannot get here. It is impossible to get here unless you've gone through this problem.
Growth takes resistance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was one of the books. Another one was Detours by Larry Evans.
I think that's who it is. Yeah.
Larry Evans.
I have it too.
I think that's his name. Yeah. Incredible book, Detours. And then the other one was, this one was about marriage. It's called, what's the name of this? Timothy. Oh man, I totally blanked on the name of this book.
What's the title? Oh, the title. Okay.
Yeah.
Not Timothy Keller.
Oh, is it Timothy Keller?
I don't know.
It's called What Did You Expect? Redeeming the Qualities of Marriage.
Okay.
Yep. It might be Timothy something, but yeah, that's an incredible book. Anyone that's going to get married or that is married should read that. There was this total stranger. I never met the guy in person, but my older brother, Nate, who lives in Pennsylvania, he knew this guy that had gone through a divorce or a separation with his ex at the time, and he read this book, and he's like, it's incredible. And then he found out about what I was going through, talking to my older brother, and he's like, hey, he's like, what's your brother's address? I'm going to send him this book. And so we had never even actually met. We still to this day never met. And so he and I texted a few times, but he sent me that book, and it was incredible. Yeah, it's like, and one of the things I remember in that book that was so good, and I remember I was showing so much of it to my parents when they were visiting, and my mom's like, oh my gosh, everyone should read this book. But it's like one of the biggest issues that people have, it's probably more so with guys, but like in a marriage is like this sense of arrival, where it's like, okay, like I have arrived at the marriage, like now it's like check it off, and now it's done. So like that was like this like peak achievement in your life of to do things, you know, and like once you get there, now you just coast, like you just like, okay, I'm here, and like we just exist now, right? It's like, no, you don't realize like that you're stepping into something that is going to take so much energy and intentional effort from you to keep this alive and active and healthy, you know. But yeah, that sense of arrival, and there's so many.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, there's 3 books. I just wanted to say that.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That's great.
I was like, I know we're like at the end, but I just like to play off that question for a second, because we definitely have that in our especially Western society. I think it's a lot of other places too, but Western society, like, we'll play up the wedding itself to the biggest, you know, degree, and it's like all just about this one, the moment, which is just the start. You know, it's the starting point, but we play it up like it is the end, right? And like, wow, boom, congratulations. But how often is that the congratulations at year 20? Or year 40? You know what I mean? Or whatever. It's like, it's almost like we should have like the wedding be this big, and then every 10 it's like a bigger celebration, you know, one upping before. But you know, when you're like 50, 60 years married, it's like that's the huge blowout, you know. We spend $100,000 on this thing, like everyone's celebrating and showing up, and like, wow, amazing, right?
Yeah.
But we've got it so like flipped. It's like the beginning.
I know.
It's like, that's it. Okay, you've arrived. Stop.
Yeah, it's like you think that like, oh, I just scored a touchdown, I'm spiking the football in the end zone, and now I'm going to Disney World. It's like, no. No, you're not.
You go to jail.
Now you're at the base of the mountain, and you're both going to climb together. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could talk forever.
We could.
It's been so great having you on, Brent.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me grace your studio couch here.
This is definitely just the first of probably many podcasts that you're going to be on. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Brent's here. Should we just put him on mic again?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Molly's not here this week, so Brent can take over.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a lot to be so like introspective and be able to articulate where you've come from and what you've gone through and everything like that. So thanks for doing that.
Happy to.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me.
Great.
And for anyone looking for a boutique event space for a wedding, a shower,
It can be your third
a
home.
brunch, a photo shoot.
That's right.
The Palmetto Estate. What's the website?
ThePalmettoEstate.com.
There you go. Social media, you're on there as well.
Yep.
Facebook,
Palmetto Estate.
Instagram.
That's right.
Website. They can check it out. Great place to do events. So thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, guys.